Just to say, the Dirt Gang part of the lecture, which is about the social infrastructure produced by left-wing insurrectionary drug-dealing hippies in Northern Californian forests, dropped out of this paper. I'm going to be presenting part of a book that I've been writing over the summer on electrical power grids and dreaming. But before I start, I'd like to, and so I'm going to be reading mostly, except there's one guided meditation in the middle of the paper. I want to start this with a very brief exercise where, if you want to participate, it'll involve you finding a partner, looking into their eyes, and repeating the words that I ask you to tell to your partner. And then you'll switch roles, and the partner will tell those same words to you. And then you'll be guided with what to do with that attention. So, if you would like to participate in a more active part of this, I invite you to find a partner with your eyes and look at them and be within seating distance. Choose somebody who's going to speak first. And then the job as a listener is to listen, do nothing more than listen. And then you will be asked to switch roles, and you will repeat the very same words that I've just said. And then I'll do a final twist on this exercise. Okay, so everybody who wants to participate, decide who is speaking first. Look into their eyes and repeat after me. I see the rock there. I see your blue eyes. I don't know you. You are my old friend. And we could now switch roles. I see the rock there. I see your blue eyes. I don't know you. You are my old friend. Now, if you would take that energy and attention and focus and point it out the door. For me, that's kind of a disorienting and confusing direction to go. In the Journal of Aesthetics and Protest issue 11, open call that aimed to facilitate solidarity, meaningful mutual aid, and justice in intimate places through locally situated avant-garde and anarchist collectives, we wrote, "This issue serves primarily as a compilation of autonomously produced and locally distributed newsletters aimed at situating non-fascist and/or avant-garde culture. The editorial manifests our critical frustration with normative political affairs that much of the creative and critical left participates in, as do we sometimes. Rather than community entanglements, so much political and political art wants nothing more than to move up the scales of mediation." This issue, titled Culture Beside Itself, aimed to support grassroots avant-garde political and cultural practices. Between 2016 and 2020, the attention economy was producing clickbait political culture. With aesthetics and protests critical and cultural foundations in the 1990s US DIY anarchist culture, this just seemed like a lot of nonsense. So it was a shock to finally understand the purpose of political parties, duh. I felt it in the shit of the Trump show, the Bolsonaro regime, and the forever rise of the German far right, and the Polish and Hungarian rights, all that simply seemed like the undead. The right wing seemed capable of holding government and to drive countercultural narratives, or rather simply alternative narratives. While there is a lot to say about how left grassroots counter and avant-garde culture differs from right-wing astroturf, I'm amazed by how much these differences are flattened in the communicative realm. Disgusted with PewDiePie and Andrew Tate's aftershave, and nonsense from far-right leftist and nonsense about far-right left-wing political dominance, I've tried to understand our political weakness. My left, the joyous, freaky, and queer, has never held political power. My left never spiked the reservoirs with LSD. We've never abolished gender, never tore down border walls or festival halls or museum walls. No one fights for the right to be lazy. None of us sleep enough. The electrical space for sleep is an abstract one. Our nighttime activity is ontologically set in difference to banks and laws and electric companies' daytime business. In Fossil Capital, ecologist Andreas Malm describes the transition from water power factories set along rivers to coal-powered factories located in cities. The main advantage coal gives to capital over its workers is the abstraction of space and time. The water that powered mills is subject to seasonal change, was situated in remote areas populated by multi-generational families. In contrast, coal-fired power plants, quote unquote, overcame these concrete spaces and time limitations of water as a prime mover. The supplying of coal to factory machines has no natural rhythm. It can be transported to when and where it is best for business. When coal is sent to the city and when factories are then electrified, they operate in a space of abstract surplus. There appears a surplus of labor, desire, time, emotion, and possibility. This urbanized surplus is paired with great social loss, or better, disoriented reality, to necessity, to meaning, to others, to meaningful passions, beside the ties to abstracting machines. Neoliberalism multiplies surplus abstraction. Gluten-free, sourdough, ethically sourced, whole wheat, bread. An open secret of capitalism is that when everything is for sale, social relation to meaning is lost to money. Theorist Howard Slater says, the factory of yesteryear became the social factory, until there is nothing left of the social but an agglomeration of self-protecting niches and micro-worlds, family cults, and heteropatriarchal bullshit. As coal and electricity burns our actual world down, we risk losing any relational orientation to a world that is not determined by capital. Talking about the left's limited response, Slater continues, Marxism's overriding concern for the objective and the structural, for mass economic exploitation, as well as social democratic obsession with delimited parameters, often meant that these passions, as well as personal psychic suffering, were not dealt with at the collective political level, but marginalized to an arena of the unsaid and the untheorizable. I'm interested in social entanglement and how we relationally construct meaning. I'm interested in dreams because they represent aspects of relational and eco-social entanglement. I began researching how an avant-garde political left, the pre-war surrealists around André Breton, utilized dreams to grasp several broader things. In what ways has the overflow of the day, in other words, dreams, been understood as a reflection of individual, collective, and liberatory political projects? André Breton's surrealists, that group of artists associated with dreams, or a group of artists famously associated with dreams, registered as members of the French Communist Party from 1927 to 1934. I looked at their relationship to dreams and electronification, or electrification. Electrification because it's a matter of material infrastructure, historically embraced by governments left and right. A ubiquitous modern infrastructure that normalizes abstract relation via its ubiquity and apparent simplicity. You just flick on the lights. Walter Benjamin suggested that the science of the surrealists, who opened up the storefront bureau of surrealist research and published dreams in science-like journals, can be understood as a secular reorientation of Catholic mysticism and the occult that long held French imagination. In a 1927 dream transcription, Breton described finding a new definition of the word to be. Scholar Jack Spector identified this discovered term as the place of being within a dream, in surreality. In this dream that Breton writes about, he reads several other dictionary terms, including the words soris, rheostat, and realitate. Soris, however pronounced, means mouse, something that scurries in and goes below. Realitate transcribes to reality. And rheostat, a device that controls the flow of electricity in a system. Based on this rheostat dream, I think it's safe to assume that surrealists, like many other people, were not against electricity. Poetically, there is something electric in the speed that the surrealists concerned themselves regarding dream work. Breton needed the quickest translation method for the subconscious to write into paper. Breton called dreams a conduction wire between the far too distant worlds of waking and sleep, exterior and interior, reality and reason, madness, of love, of life, and of love for life and the revolution, and so on. Though appreciative of Freud's attention to the subconscious, Breton was not so interested in Freud's theories. Rather, Breton was interested in dreams' literary potential. Tessel Baudoun summarizes, for Freud, dreams serve only to be interpreted. For the surrealists, interpretation and analysis only serves bourgeois morals. Rather, the dream should be narrated as a creative production in itself, and ideally, it should be lived. Surrealism wanted its readers to come alive against the worst kind of sleep. It asks readers to experience the world through the eyes of a madman, to feel the alienated passion of a child. As the second Surrealist manifesto says, the simplest Surrealist act consists of dashing down into the street, pistol in hand, and firing blindly as fast as you can pull a trigger into the crowd. On the eve of World War II, Walter Benjamin assessed Surrealists' artistic production and cultural value. He appreciated their analytical and secular approach to the magical, and their secular appreciation to the politically possible. Here I'm quoting Benjamin. Where are the conditions for revolution? In the changing of attitudes or of external circumstances? This is the cardinal question that determines the relation of politics to morality and cannot be glossed over. Surrealism has come ever closer to a communist answer, and that means pessimism all along the line, absolutely. Mistrust in the fate of literature, mistrust in the fate of freedom, mistrust in the fate of European humanity, but 3 times mistrust in all reconciliation between classes, between nations, between individuals, and ultimate trust only in IG Farben and the peaceful perfection of the Air Force. Nevertheless, at this present moment, armed nihilism and blind trust in a party seems too narrow a platform for me for what dreams can do for us. While surrealist organizing did seriously organize the weird, and they did it notably, pre-war surrealist dreaming affirmed little about the potential of entangled human and more than human sociality. A political appreciation of dreaming sees dreams as a far more entangled ecological nature of being. Dreams are more than fuel for modernist literature. Dreams do not relate to the laws of profit nor temporality. They make a mockery of whatever rules. They are a personal sentinel for meaning drawn from a relation to common and particular lives, in disregard to capital. They are a connection between our total feelings and the world we are sharing. I invite you to, this is the guided meditation part of this presentation. So feel free to close your eyes as I read a little guided meditation. Imagine you are living in a city, in an apartment building. You know that criminal activity and murder rates are lowest at night. Your bed is nestled up against the wall. Alone, you go to sleep. If you sleep next to a lover or a friend or a child, you are now asleep together. Outside it gets later, and outside it gets later and more quiet. Beside you in the next door apartment, just through the wall next to you, someone else is falling asleep, with only a wall between you and the neighbor's bed. You're now somehow sleeping together. And if the wall between you and your neighbor magically disappeared, you're now really sleeping together with a space of a wall just between you and them. And this happens everywhere across that row of houses, from the top to the bottom of the street. Inner walls evaporating, and beds just staying as they are, where people have been sleeping. Despite race, class, social and gender divisions, despite daytime dramas, you let each other sleep, as you always do. You're all in the city, sleeping, and also dreaming together. The research is unclear. Oh, that was the meditation part. The research is unclear how mammals are affected by electrical lines, though it seems minimal. Nevertheless, there are huge behavioral differences between modern and non-electrified humanity's sleep. Modern sleep is characterized by fewer people going to bed and dreaming at the same time. If we collectively self-regulate through shared dreaming, it happens less often. Instead of common sleeping spaces and times, time is set by the clock and other external forces. There are late shifts, personal entertainment, tasks, abstract fears. We can all cheat sleep. Some of us are forced to. As the artist collective Black Power Naps say, this sleep gap identified by researchers is worse for those who are undocumented, disabled, or at a lower income level. And they ask, how can we dream when we don't sleep? There is a power in recognizing, via dreaming, just how much we make up each other's world. Why do we deny the embodied collectivity that is the lived world, experienced with difficulty in the day and lawlessly in nighttime dreams? For profited interest, of course. The political party we are slowly building is based on the acknowledgement that meaningful horizons are measured not by income, but rather through wild but achievable sociality. We can only dream of the imaginable. Dreaming our pre-modern open-access cinema open to the world that we each provide for one another without cost. We seem to dream at night, regardless of arrangements and budgets. We dream of things in our shared world. Waking from dreams, we can actually feel passionate about things because we have experienced them. Aristotle, the Greek thinker central to Western thought, speculated about the thin line between individual and collective in relation to dreams. He wrote about the still of the night, the wind picking up, somehow reading people's minds as news carried from far away to be visualized in dreams. There may be a decisive victory in a sea battle that matters to us at a distance, and we only learn about it in our dream as we sleep. The field of dream telepathy is taken up in psychology because it seems to be at play in therapist-patient relationships. Among others, Sigmund Freud was interested and uncomfortable with the idea of people visiting each other's minds as they dream. Freud was a corresponding member of the British Society of Psychical Research, which published many papers assuming, quote unquote, the human mind is non-local, transcending the limits of space and time. Remember how late 19th century psychological questions mingled with what we now name the esoteric. Freud's 1924 essay, Dreams and Telepathy, begin with a disclaimer. At the present time, when there's such great interest felt in what we call occult phenomenon, very definite anticipations will doubtless be aroused by the announcements of this paper. Freud was agnostic about this and said, I will therefore hasten to explain that there's no grounds for any such anticipation. You will learn nothing from this paper of mine about the enigma of telepathy. Gilhooly and Toish assess Freud's discomfort. Telepathy, they write, is the ultimate affront to consciousness, revealing the simplistic conception of the unique individual as nothing more than a tenaciously maintained illusion. Dream telepathy or no, interpretive theories of dreams assume a common space for dreaming. Beyond the biological facts common to all dreamers, that we dream within supple and pulsating bodies, we see a shared world behind our closed eyes while we rest. That a therapist can understand dream nonsense simply suggests that we mirror each other in that shared general intellect of thought. Our world is different from that of our grandparents, living when roads were traveled slower and space was less abstracted. Today, our bodies transverse abstracted landscapes, while our glands actively inhibit our movement as we sleep. Yet, this need for paralysis is the realness of our dreams. We do not dream of the unimaginable. We dream with and through meaningful others. Though relationships may be ill-informed, disorienting, abusive, pleasant, bug-like, like a thunderstorm, we dream about things we relate to. I'm interested in this question asked by experimental phenomenologist Paolo Bozzi, who researched dreams physics to get a sense of how we collectively feel things to be true in distinction to what we scientifically measure as true. Think here of the difference in nature of information between how the human body experientially measured truth for millennia and what an electric microscope can now inform us of as truth. Electron microscopes are a truth tool we only utilize for about a century. One reason we find in dreams is that dreams identify what is real to us. We dream through our whole body. We dream not simply through our heads because we relate to the world with the whole of our being and beyond. Susan Lee Foster's conception of kinesthetic empathy holds that